Hey guys, how's it going? So this one really pisses me off. Court says no rights were violated when Michigan school told girl to remove hat with an image of a gun. We're going to get into this article, this breaking story by the 6th Circuit Court of Appeals. This is the United States Circuit Court that governs over Michigan, Ohio, Kentucky, in Tennessee, and this is a major precedent-setting case with terrible implications and a direct attack on the First Amendment as directly related to the Second Amendment. And for those of you that have been following my channel for a long time, you've heard me say this before, and for all of you who are new, welcome. I hope you enjoy the channel. Look, I love the whole Bill of Rights. A beautiful document. I love the Second Amendment just a little bit more than all the rest. Why? Well, obviously, because the Second Amendment was put there not for if, but for when they come for all the rest. And right here, a high court, second highest court in the land, the only people above them is the Supreme Court, has just gone after the First Amendment like crazy via the Second Amendment. This is a story I've been following for a while. It's going through the appeals process. And yeah, this is not good. Let me know what you think down there in the comments. Now, this comes from Wood TV via the Associated Press. Durand, Michigan. A Michigan school did not violate the free speech rights of a third grade student who was told to remove a hat that had an image of an AR-15 style rifle and the message, quote, "Come and take it," in capital letters, a federal court said Friday. Now, I would note, the student was just asked to remove their hat. There's no allegations they threatened anybody or nothing like that. That's not even an issue here. Just simply wearing the hat with a picture of something. This actually reminds me of the CRS Firearms, aka Matt Hoover case, where he had a picture of something, a picture on a piece of steel of a lightning link, which was not one, as shown in the court trials. Yeah, the government wants him to die in prison. To see where we're heading with all this? Pictures of things now equals things, but even the things that they're pictures of are protected by the Second Amendment, and now you can't even exercise your First Amendment protected natural rights to show pictures of things in many instances that are protected by the Second Amendment. And yes, the Constitution and Bill of Rights are supposed to be the supreme law of the land. I'll continue. The principal at Kerr Elementary School in Durand said the hat could be disruptive and perceived as threatening, especially because the school in 2022 had new students that came from Oxford, a district that was the site of a school shooting just a few months earlier. Yeah, it looks like all of their no wearing hats with guns on them policies didn't work very well in Oxford, did they? See, here's the problem with these people. They keep doing these same tried and true policies. Gun-free zones. Let's call those what they are. Those are criminal empowerment zones. Signs on doors. Getting rid of people's free exercise of their speech. None of this works. None of it's ever worked. In fact, it makes people less safe as it keeps getting proven over and over again. Now they're going to take it out on this student's First Amendment protected rights. The school's, quote, actions were readily defensible, the 6th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals said in a 3-0 opinion. So this was unanimous. Nobody read the First Amendment in this court, in my opinion. Or maybe they did, and they actually hate the First Amendment. Because it seems that there's judges all over this country now that hate the Constitution, hate the Bill of Rights, and it's almost starting to become the injustice system in so many cases. Here's a quote from the court. The record demonstrates that school officials relied on their knowledge of the student body to make a reasonable forecast of a substantial disruption in school activities, and therefore did not violate the First Amendment by asking C.S. to remove her hat, the court said. Hold on, I've got some thoughts on that. Disrupt the school activities? Disrupt what? Schools don't even teach the Bill of Rights or the Second Amendment of the Constitution. Maybe they'll utter it in passing, but nobody talks about the fundamental premise of this country and our natural God-given rights. Certainly not in most public schools that I'm aware of. In fact, I found that education in general, specifically in the public school systems, is more of an indoctrination, is what it truly is. Trying to indoctrinate this new world order, this whatever it is, because they don't really talk about America anymore. So disrupt from what? Disrupt from the government school indoctrination system? You can't have them disrupting that to talk about the First Amendment. See, this would have made an excellent lesson, right? To teach all of the students and say, although some of you might not like guns, this little girl has a natural right, a natural God-given right. That's what the Declaration of Independence says. Our rights are endowed by our Creator. And she has that right to express herself with an image on a hat. And this is what it means to be an American. But no, they couldn't use this as a good teaching lesson to actually teach about our country. They said this would be a substantial disruption in school activities. Kerr School had allowed students to wear hats during a week dedicated to showing kindness. Well, I would note an armed society is a polite society. And to me, that is kindness. Look, I know many, many kind people, including most of you that are watching, that own an AR-15. And you would use it to protect good lives from sick, deranged, bad people. But they have a different opinion on this. The schools do. The courts do. The student's hat belonged to her father, and she wore it because it made her feel safe, according to a summary of the case. Look, they talk about all these problems with broken families. Here's a girl that looks up to her dad. Wearing her dad's hat reminds her of him, makes her feel safe. Obviously, this is a Second Amendment loving and a gun loving family, which means they love America, right? And they took it out on her. The father subsequently filed a lawsuit claiming a violation of his daughter's First Amendment rights. The appeals court affirmed a decision in favor of the school by U.S. District Judge Terrence Berg. So the dad sued, said, you're violating my daughter's First Amendment protected rights. She's allowed to wear this hat. She wasn't causing any problems. Just remember this. That was never even alleged. Sued, lost to the lower judge, the U.S. District Judge, federal judge. They appealed it. And now in the Circuit Court of Appeals, they convened a 3-judge panel who voted 3-0 to stand up for the school and their tyranny and the lower judge and the complete disrespect for the First and Second Amendment. But I would note this. This happened in Michigan. Michigan now, via the MDHHS, that's the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, has now put through, by edict, a whole curriculum where they are now going to be sending literature, instructional material to all of the parents of students in both public and non-public schools, telling them how the state wants them to store a gun pursuant to these so-called safe storage laws. I say so-called because these are laws that make it safer for the criminal, not the person within their home. But they're going to teach kids bad things about guns in schools. No doubt, as seen through the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, which is insane, to the parents, to the children, so they'll demonize guns in the school, while completely and utterly, in my opinion, having a disdain for the First Amendment and the Second Amendment. So there you go. That's my thoughts on this. Another loss in the courts, these federal judges. Another loss for the First Amendment primarily, but also the Second Amendment, because that AR-15 is a protected, a God-given right by the Second Amendment. Well, I thank all of you for watching the video, and if you'd like to help support the channel, check out the links down there in the description. Maybe become a YouTube channel member. There was no ad read at the beginning of this video, and you all are my sponsors. Now, speaking of the First Amendment, while we have just a little bit left of it, here's my thoughts on that. Here's my hat I'm going to put on, because here's what I think about all of this. Here's what I think about gun control. Here's what I think about these judges and all of these people who either can't read, which is doubtful. They can probably actually read the First and Second Amendment because this third grader clearly knows what it means. No, in my opinion, it's much more sinister than that. They hate the First Amendment. They definitely hate the Second Amendment. And they probably hate good people just like me and just like you. All right, thanks for watching, and have a good one.